I'm going to call the meeting to order. Roll call vote, please.
Weber,
Here.
Nystrom,
Here.
Teben,
Here.
Pritchard,
Here.
Melhouse.
Here.
Okay.
Are there any changes to the agenda?
Nope.
Okay, I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
Motion to
I
approve.
move to approve the agenda.
Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the agenda. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. The agenda passes. Next on the list is the approval of the BEA contract. Dr. Menard.
Yes, we met in negotiations a week ago. Spent about an hour, and a lot of that time was some good discussion regarding the current situation and where we need to go, and came to a pretty amicable agreement pretty quickly of a total salary increase of 2.36% with $100 on the base. That figures out to be $294,000, but with changes in personnel, it's always a little lower than that. It did include the changes in health insurance that we had already worked through, and it did include a two-year agreement. And then I am going to work with Brett Collins looking at activity passes, because the elementary has added some nights that their staff has to be there, and they wanted to look at whether that could be included in the time for supervision to receive athletic passes and activity passes. And that certainly was a fair request. It's not part of the negotiated agreement, but just something I agreed to do as part of that discussion. And the union has supported that, so I would recommend we approve it.
Okay, is there any discussion on this contract? Board members, questions?
So I have a question, and this is maybe out of left field, but when I was running for school board, one of the associates reached out to me and kind of asked about the possibility of being paid for 12 months instead of just for 9. And so same package, just extending it over 12 months and just even having that option. So I don't know if it's possible and all of that. Yeah, that's just something I kind of wanted to throw out there that I just kind of remembered that I had been asked. So
Mitch, do you want to take that
Yes.
one on?
Yep, Joey, it is possible. The issue is, if let's say we have an associate that we give them 1,800 hours, that's 180 some days. At the end of the year, we have to shore them up. So if they worked over, then we pay them more. If they pay less, then we deduct it. And that really plays into our ACA too for hour tracking. And before ACA, a lot of schools did that. When the ACA started, every school quit doing that. So that's kind of why that's the way it is.
this is common practice with most school districts.
Yeah. I know some smaller schools that do it over 12 months. Larger schools, you just pay per hour. They worked at 5 hours, you pay them 5 hours. So that's just
That actually will come up in negotiations when we do the support staff negotiations, which we'll probably, Dr. Bernard mentioned, I'll probably try to get together with their union officials sometime in the next 2 to 3 weeks time to get those negotiations set up.
Yeah, I was in contact with Greg Cross with the UE today. And so we're beginning to talk about how to proceed forward.
Okay, so. Okay. Any other questions, discussions?
Well, my question regarding that would be, wouldn't that be a stabilizing element though for people? For their monthly income, plus if they were on insurance, it would stabilize that?
Yeah, and that's why we used to do it that way. I did that, gosh, for years in both Solon and in the district before that. But Mitch, you talked about, and you know this better than I do, an act that came into play that changed us in doing that. Can you explain a little more?
ACA, we really have to keep track
Oh,
of their
Affordable Care
hours.
Act, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, it would be very time consuming, and probably not the best thing that we should be doing is going to 12 months.
We
Any
can-
other questions? Brad?
Nope, go ahead.
I'll entertain a motion for approval of the BEA contract as presented.
This is Pat. I move to approve the BEA contract as presented.
Okay, it's been moved by Mrs. Teben. Is there a second?
Second.
We'll go for Joey. Mr. Weber as seconding that one. It was a tight race there between he and Jeremy. Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay? Okay. Next on the agenda is the our planning as far as graduation, recognition of employees retiring, prom, all that type of thing. I think the last couple weeks ago, we asked Dr. Menard and Mr. Bynum to put on their creativity hats, and I'm excited to hear what you come up with.
Well, Chris has been the creative one here, but I shared some information with you earlier today regarding the some of the plans of other schools and how things were working out. For graduation and prom, several schools have canceled prom. Chris, I know, thinks it's really important that if we can't have prom, we have some sort of social celebration, and I would support that. I think doing something to celebrate those seniors would be a good thing to do. I was on an AAA conference call this morning with about 50 superintendents, and I asked the question how many had canceled, and several shared that they had. Several are still in the planning stages because this was just brought to us by or we just found out last Friday that school is going to be canceled for the rest of the year. Graduation is about 50-50. About half the people right now that have made plans are planning to do something around their regular graduation with some sort of parade or celebration and some sort of graduation or diploma distribution that would be public or broadcast. Others are looking at moving it into June. One of the challenges of moving it into June is we don't know if we'll be in the same spot in June and have to do something differently, and we don't know how many of our kids would be available that weekend. So there's some things that are kind of hanging out there that are still questions, and like this whole situation, we want to do the best we can for the kids, for our seniors and their families, but we know it's not going to be perfect no matter what we do. Things have changed and things are different. So Chris has really been working hard on this in the last few days since we found out Friday, communicated with a lot of people, and I want him to share some of the thoughts and ideas he has.
Thank you. I'm going to share my screen. I made a document that will kind of map out kind of a timeline of where I feel things should kind of lie. And then I think we can have a discussion on where you guys think we should head. I have had conversations.
Chris, did you borrow Pam's?
Am I delayed?
You're good.
Chris, I think you borrowed Pam's computer where you're only
Nope.
hearing about every third word.
I'm hearing
hearing it
everything,
all.
Brian.
I think it might be Brian's connection.
Brian, it's your connection. We're hearing everything.
Good. I'll give Dr. Milhouse a second. Can you hear me,
Okay.
Dr. Milhouse? He's
Let
delayed.
me check mine.
Yep, he's checking his.
He's buffering.
I could hear Pat. I could hear Pam.
Well, it looks like your screen's
Frozen
frozen.
now.
He's frozen.
I
Mhm.
was hearing that fine. Who's that now talking?
Nobody was.
Oh, there he goes.
He's left. He's left the building.
It's up to you, Pat.
Oh.
You're
He'll be
in
back on in a
charge.
second. We'll give him a second to see if he joins us again. Otherwise, we can go ahead with Chris's report and if you want to go ahead and share it. Oh, he's come back on. There he is. He's connecting to audio. And you're seeing the floor. Brian, are you there?
Okay, I am here.
Can you hear us
Hey.
now?
Can you hear us better? Or well, go ahead and Chris talk and see if you can hear Chris better.
Dr. Milhouse, can you hear us?
Let me take these out. I'm making it down.
He's
Okay.
super
Can you
delayed.
guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can all hear
Okay.
you, Chris. Brian?
Okay, now I can hear the voice okay too, so.
Okay.
It's
Go ahead,
matching up
Chris.
with my lips. All
Okay.
right. So I have had some conversation with parents, some students. We had our administration meeting, and then I talked to some of my secretaries today, and have kind of worked through a plan, timeline, a rough timeline of what we might be considering. I've tried to match it up to what we were going to do anyway, just because I have a feeling, and we've talked a little bit about this, that they have the time set aside for these moments in time, I guess. And so in our planning, I've matched it up with a kind of a large celebration, with the idea that we would postpone prom, but we would revisit that down the road, and we might have to try something a little bit different. But I don't want to. What I've heard from some of the seniors is that's the most important piece of the puzzle right now, and so I don't want to just shoot it down and not try to do something to celebrate our seniors. And so I've tried to make it interactive with the community. I have an email set aside for when we're done talking. I will get off and I'll probably send an email to Weebold and Adams and a bunch of the people around town to really include everybody. So I'm going to share my screen and kind of give you guys an idea. Oh, my screen is not able. Hey, can somebody enable me? Bog, are you there?
I don't see that option.
Oh man.
It says
Screen-
one participant can share at a time. It's
Nobody
already
else?
checked, but
Nobody
let's
else.
see.
With somebody sharing that could unshare.
No, it says. Oh, you know what? I wonder if it's the
That's
YouTube.
host disabled participant screen sharing. That's what it says. Host disabled participant screen sharing.
Yeah, but I don't have a checkbox to fix that.
Ah, okay.
Who's the host? Is Mitch the host, or is
I
are you-
am.
Okay.
Well, I guess.
All right, then I'm gonna walk you guys through it. I'm gonna not be. I'm gonna.
Here, Chris, let me see if I could. No, I cannot.
You
Chris,
can't.
can you maybe
you-
email it to us
I
all?
could only share mine.
Chris,
Okay.
can you screenshot it and send
Yeah.
it to us?
Actually, you
Is-
know what? I'll
Is
just
it a
share
Google Doc, Chris?
Yes. Dog, I'm sending it to you.
Share it to me and I could share it with you guys,
Perfect.
I think.
Just
I
shared
can
it with you.
see all my stuff. Are you seeing my screen?
Yes,
Yep.
we are.
Perfect, Bog. Thank you.
There, that's good.
Perfect. So one of the things I had talked to the Booster Club a little bit, and some of my friends and colleagues in Boone, and they've been talking about the Scoop the Loop on Friday nights. And so one of the things I thought we could do is kind of create a prom Scoop the Loop. And you're going to notice that I have a bunch of little celebrations here with the ultimate goal of being able to do something larger in the summer, if at all possible, for a prom type of situation. But who knows where we're going to be, but everything's kind of tentative and up in the air. So one of the thoughts was to get a hold of KWVG and see if they could play some of the hits from the 4 years that the students were in high school as the Scoop the Loop. I had the Booster Club contact me today and threw out the idea of Victor and the Bulboda, or in my truck, scooping the loop on May 1st. Obviously the police department and the fire department, everybody kind of in town is getting involved with it. So trying to find a way of celebrating the seniors during that Friday night. So I've kind of put that on a tentative plan to get our seniors out and just being visible. And so maybe we can have people come out and wave to them and things like that. As of right now, we're done with our online learning on May 15th. And so we'll finalize our graduation seating chart that we typically have. This is going to help us. And if we don't do something virtual, and my proposal right now is that we're not going to do something virtual. I want to actually do something at the field at Geppinger. And so that's something that's going to be really important, because we're going to have to number off spots and do some different things so that they can, we can get the distancing on the field and make sure that we're separated enough for legality purposes, I guess. May 18th and 19th, we're going to have to do a senior checkout because we're going to have to collect our Chromebooks, and we'll have to get them the information regarding what's going to happen the rest of the week when it comes to awards night and graduation, the maps, the different things that we're going to try to put together if this is the plan that we're going to head with. On May 20th is actually, that's usually our awards day. So I was going to continue with the awards day. Drake has been making senior spotlights that have been going out on Facebook for the students. And so we have a baby picture and a student picture of each one of our seniors that are going up and celebrating the things that they're going to do and where they're going. And it has a couple of questions. So we were going to take those and celebrate each one of the seniors with a slide, putting the awards and where they're going and what they're doing, maybe the total amount earned that they've had, do the introduction of the Brown Award and the Wall of Fame. Probably have that broadcasted on Boone TV. The other thing that we talked about doing is one of the most important parts of the prom is the girls showing off their dresses and things. Bog, will you go up just a smidge? Yeah, right there is fine. We also, I've seen a couple of other schools that have done both graduation or proms where it's like one person walks in and they live stream it, and it's literally, we could do the grand march and they could walk on stage, be showcased, and then leave, type of thing. So that's something that we could add in there if we wanted to, or we could even do that at the stadium. But we could do this all virtually. I met with Jostens today. They have a whole packet about virtual graduations and things like that. And so I've got a lot of, it's a flip book that has a lot of different pieces that I can put together. It has some templates that I can use if that's something where we need to go. I'm trying to stay away from the virtual piece of it because it's not as connected, but I'm also keeping in mind all the medical things and all the things that we need to do with social distancing. So my plan with graduation as of right now would be keeping it on May 24th, but changing the time a smidge with a rain makeup day on May 31st. So we would have the graduation at Geppinger Field. Other possible dates could be June 14th, June 12th, if we needed to push it back farther. It kind of puts kids in a bind with transcripts and graduation and things like that to move forward. But I still think it's possible to do May 24th if we do the social distancing appropriately and space it out. So my thought is using basically the whole football field and spreading kids or spreading the families out so they wouldn't be in the stands. We wouldn't have anybody in the stands, but there would be pockets of families throughout the whole field and spread them all out. We could broadcast that live on Boone TV for the rest of the families, just like we're doing now on YouTube and Facebook. And one of the ideas that we had was we could organize the cars, everybody's car for the processional, kind of down by the racetrack. One idea that was thrown out was like do a final lap on the racetrack with a checkered flag, and then they would head up Story Street towards school. I've already been in contact with some Boone grads that are going to be, that we could get some signs made with all the seniors' names on them and line Story Street with those signs, have a giant sign, congratulating our COVID-19 class of 2020, or something fun like that, and have a processional parade down Story Street. Talk to KWBG and seeing if they could play Pop and Circumstance on the radio as they go down the street. Have the fire, have Victor lead them with a police escort. Have the fire department with a giant flag on Story Street, and then other family members could line the street, obviously being separated enough where they would be fine, but we could go down. My plan would be to take them to 7th Street and go right across the high school one last time so that they can say their goodbye as they're driving by the high school, literally going 2 by 2 like we typically do in a graduation. As they come into the gym, we would do the same concept, but down Story Street, down 7th, and then come to the football field. They would walk onto the football field. We'd number the spots on the football field with the proper distancing and chairs. I saw that done with the Air Force Academy this weekend. I thought it was something that was really neat, beautiful, touching. I think it would represent our students well. I contemplated doing, and I have a B and a C idea too. So this is my A, and I'll throw out the other ideas here as we go. But that would be the processional, and then they would get onto the field. We would do, Scott has a giant projector screen that we would tie up on the, up in front of the press box so that we can do our senior video and a commencement speech and whatever. And then they can come by, we can do the handing of the diplomas. And so they can come by, we can hand them the diplomas. And then the last thing that I thought about was inviting our teaching staff afterwards. As they're leaving, they'll go by the teaching staff, obviously, once again, separated. But our teaching staff hasn't been able to say goodbye to their kids. And I think that's really important that we typically do a graduation march at all the elementaries and the middle school. And I'd like to invite all of our staff to spread out on the track, have the families walk past everybody and out.
Hold on a second, Chris. Bob,
Yeah.
could you scroll up and get rid of your little chat box or whatever you got there? Could you scroll up and yeah, thank you.
There.
Okay.
So we could have, we would hand out diplomas. One of the things that we've talked about, the Booster Club has a bunch of candy and other things, do some goodie bags. I'm looking at creating kind of a one-of-a-kind t-shirt for the kids. Maybe something, I'm going to talk to Raygun. I have a couple of other friends of mine that own t-shirt companies that I'm going to reach out to, and maybe they can make a one-of-a-kind t-shirt for our kids that are graduating. And then the last piece is we typically do confetti and things like that, seeing if we could have somebody help us out with some fireworks or do something afterwards as they're leaving. That's why I changed the time to a little bit later in the evening. So that's the graduation piece. The last piece are some ideas with prom alternatives in June and July. We could still do the grand march, but doing it in the auditorium, kind of one at a time, live streamed, even on Story Street, even at the stadium, getting the separation that we would need. And then there's a couple more bogged down a little bit. One of the other ideas was kind of doing a prom pool party where we typically do a senior picnic, renting the pool for an evening, having a DJ, having a picnic with the students and celebrating the students one evening. And then the other one is we could rent DMAC or a larger facility with air conditioning because we don't have air conditioning, obviously, in the gym, and hosting a legitimate prom, but we don't know where we're going to be at. So I've tried to list a bunch of different ideas. My B plan, the other plan in terms of social distancing would be to do the march the same way down Story Street. And then as they get to the end, we could hand out diplomas without anybody getting out of a car. We could announce their name on KWBG and we could, line it into downtown. That would be an option so that we don't have to get out of our cars or whatever. And the last option would be to do it at the, Brad, help me out. What did I say where we were going to do it?
At the Expo Center?
At the Expo, I'm sorry, at the Expo, and doing a drive-in theater type of concept where they would drive in, we would have a thing, we would do a screen, we would be able to present everything, and then they would drive up, we would hand it to them, and then they could move on. The reason why my A idea is Geppinger is we've taken a lot from our students as is right now. They're missing a lot, and one last opportunity for them to be at the field that is part of Boone High School. I think there's a lot of memories there, and we can try to do something if we can get the spacing right. Dr. Melhouse is going to have to help me out with that to make sure that we would be in an okay place to do that. But I just think one opportunity to get them in a Boone facility of some sort of the community schools is really important. I think it's really important to make sure that we're celebrating them in many different ways because they're really missing out on a lot of their experiences. And so I'm trying to find celebrations that are not necessarily within our traditions, but are adequate enough where they'll appreciate it. Thoughts? That was a lot. Thanks, Bog.
I'll jump in.
My pleasure.
I'm never too short of words, so I will jump in. And I think the main thing is that we just have to make this memorable for our seniors. Whatever it is, I just think the seniors have to be able to look back to this point and remember what it looked like. I have certain memories, and they may not be the best memories of my senior year or graduation, but I have memories. And so providing memories for our seniors is the main thing. Chris, I just want to say we are absolutely blessed to have you as a principal in this district. And it is very apparent that you have worked so hard on all of these plans. You're amazing right now. I'm just going to say that. Other thoughts with all of this, me personally, I'm going to say, how can I help? But I hope the rest of the school board says, how can we help? If it's handing out diplomas, if it's helping with distancing, chaperoning, whatever it may be, I personally want to be a help in that. And so I don't know if the others are as well, but I am. I have a really great relationship with Drew at DMAC. So if that's an option, I can reach out to Drew for you guys as well. Looking, I just saw my notes. I jotted down when you were talking. one thing I thought of was like with the handing out of the diplomas,
Mhm.
we don't know where we're going to be in a month or 2 months. So maybe it's just masks and gloves. I mean, if whoever is handing out, we're wearing masks and gloves to hand out.
Wouldn't be anything unusual for me to have the mask and gloves on. That's all I have nowadays, since I'm the one that has to hand out the mask.
Exactly.
It's no big deal.
I've been helping out with the Toward Our Pantry, and that's exactly what we've been doing. Is we've been wearing masks and gloves every single week to hand out the boxes to all the individuals. Yeah, the pool party. I love that idea. That's a big maybe because I don't even know if the pool will open this year. But
Yeah.
I love the idea, but it's a big maybe.
Yeah.
The only criticism I may have, the one-of-a-kind T-shirts. I know our small businesses are potentially hurting. And so if we could at least get a quote from some of our
I always
small
do.
businesses here in Boone, Athena, Intensity, I'm sure I don't know all of them, but if we get a quote from them, at least to just price check, I think that'd be great. So
Yep.
that's all I got.
Okay.
My main concern is just making sure that we do follow the social distancing. We can't have, two people that aren't from the same household anywhere near each other yet, and it's going to be a while. So that's my main concern. I'm sure it's Brian's too, as the health professional, to make sure that this thing does not continue to spread. So if we can do these without in fidelity, making sure that they're not coming in contact with others, excuse me, I'm choking, then fine. If that makes sense.
Yep.
Can I just kind of play? I'm going to throw hats back and forth here for a little bit. First, Chris, I think you got some great ideas there. I appreciate your creativity, and I think they're some great ideas. Now, let me talk about some modifications that Dr. Millhouse, Chairman of the Board of Health, would suggest.
I knew you'd give me that, so I'm glad.
Yeah, I like the scoop the loop idea. I really do. I think that if I recall, that weekend of May 1st, isn't that prom weekend?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm afraid that from a public health standpoint, I think that's going to be a little too much too early. Because if we're going to have all the parents out staying on the sidewalk, they're not going to maintain their 6 feet. They're going to be talking to their friends next to them, etc. I like the idea. I would suggest moving it maybe 2 weeks back to like May 15th, because on May 15th, the peak of this crisis for the state of Iowa is supposed to happen. They keep moving it back, but right now they're talking about May 5th, May 7th. And so pushing that back 2 weeks, I think I'd be more comfortable recognizing too that you're going to have two different households riding in each car, because you're going to have the kids with their prom date, and guessing they're not going to be dating their brother and sister.
My ultimate goal was that they weren't riding with their prom dates. It was just them and their family.
Yeah, okay. Because otherwise that would be a little bit of a problem. So I think it's a great idea. I like the idea of having KWBG playing some top music of that era, working with Ryan Wendt on that type of thing. I think it'd be a great idea. The Grand March, I think you had that as the 18th or 17th, something like that. I don't remember. I didn't write down the date.
Grand March. Yeah, the Grand March is something that's just kind of a flexible type thing.
Right.
We could do
I
it
would
many different ways.
My concern is if each couple's going to come out on stage, well, behind the stage, they're all, or out in the hallway, there's going to be a big line of kids. If you make them every 6 feet apart, that line's going to have to be 600 feet long. And who's to say everyone's going to manage that 600 feet or that 6 foot, 6 foot. So there again, great idea, but I think I'd move it back a week or so.
Okay.
Graduation, I like the football field idea. That's kind of what I've been kind of hinting toward or suggesting all along here, because I think we're going to be able to get our social distancing and get that type of thing open sooner. From what I'm hearing, this past weekend from the governor's office. Large group accommodations, meetings in larger groups probably aren't going to start. They're probably going to start with like maybe 25 or 50 people at a time. That probably won't be until like May 15th. So I think that this would be probably pushing the governor's recommendation to be going for the 24th or 25th graduation weekend. Going the weekend after, I think by June 1st, I think a lot of things will be done or will be open more by June 1st. I've always been using the date June 1st for the last 2.5 months of saying that our society in the state of Iowa is not going to get back to any semblance of normal until June 1st. And so I guess, Mr. Bynum, I really like your ideas, but I think I would suggest we play with that timeline just a little bit on there, because otherwise you got some great ideas. I like the idea of parading down Story Street, having 2 lanes of cars and coming around Story to 7th Street, going by the high school, and then coming and having some parking attendants park all these cars and have all the kids march in and order. And on the football field, you can get your 6 feet and all that type of thing. I think those logistics can be worked out great. We have a stage that we get a stage like we've had in past years in the gym, maybe a little bit bigger one at one end for the board, and have the kids so the kids can walk across, get their diplomas and down. I would think that probably by that day we might even be able to avoid our masks, instead of having the mask board handing out the diplomas. So I think there's a lot of good things.
One of the things, just so you know, like on the Grand March, everything, I know that kids want to come as couples, but I know that's probably not going to happen. A lot of the things that I'm trying to do are either singleton or done in families. So for instance, rather than having the families up in the stands, they're actually going to be sitting down with their student that is graduating down on the field, and we put them in little pockets everywhere across the field. That way we keep separation, and what we were going to do is we're going to actually reach out to the families and say immediate family only. So if it's a brother and a sister and the parents or whatever, those would be the people that would be coming, and then everything would be broadcast otherwise for other family members. So
Yeah, Chris and I even talked today about limiting it to parents, but one of the things he pointed out is that a lot of families would need a babysitter then or something like that, and that might be difficult this time of year with what's happening. And so having the kids come with the family, he felt that we could set it up on the field to have enough distancing to make that work, even if they had, 6, 7 people in the immediate family.
I really appreciate what Brian has to say, because I understand the medical side. That I understand. I say this with the financial stuff too, right? Like, I understand that I don't understand all the medical stuff. That's just the way it is. But I do think that there are ways that we can work around everything. One idea that I had was just the board and or teachers, associates, all of us, just strategically placed throughout that 6-mile radius. I know that we have high school teachers, middle school teachers, elementary teachers. I have elementary teachers constantly contacting me, begging me for opportunities to serve. They would love the opportunity to stand at a spot and not allow a teacher to move to the next 6-foot radius.
Right.
And so there's just we have lots of teachers that are willing to do this stuff, and they love these seniors because some of these teachers have watched these seniors grow from kindergartners to seniors.
Yep.
So I think there's ways around it. Maybe it's Grand March and graduation together. I'm always very honest. I'm getting text messages from people that are listening to this as we watch it. And one lady threw out the idea of what if our seniors wore their prom dresses and tuxes to graduation? You know, so it's like all in one, try and get it all in one shot. Again, it's a memorable experience. That's just an idea. And I appreciate Brian talking about May 15th. I understand that's where the medical professionals are talking that this is where we may be at, but we don't know that for sure. We just don't know from one day to the next what's going on. And so I think fluidity is a big thing with all of this. So.
The problem with having prom dresses and tuxedos to graduation ceremony all in one is that's fine for the seniors. However, we've got just as many juniors that have prepared for prom. Plus, there are many seniors that could care less about prom and have not spent any money or anything else. So I think you need to keep those two things separated.
We've lost Chris somehow, did we?
Yes, we did. What I was gonna say is that as Chris has worked on this, he and I reviewed it on Sunday night, and then we reviewed it again on this morning, and he just texted me, he said he's working on getting back. But I think there's some variables here and some things that we can work out. The basic concept is good. I think what we need to establish for families is that we're going to do something like this, but we're going to do it on this date. Because that's the biggest thing I'm hearing from parents right now is they want to know how to plan for this and when to plan for it. And if we can do something that is going to maintain the social distancing approach and can set a date that we think is comfortable with that time frame of maintaining the social distancing, then families can start to plan, and we can begin to work out the details on how that's going to look. You know, we've talked about 3-4 different things on the Grand March, and there could be different ways of doing it, and it might be a completely different thing. But graduation itself, I think he's got kind of things worked out there and how it might work. And if we can decide on a date and say, we're going to go for it on this date, I think that works well for us. I know that some school districts are saying, you know, they've got a June date and then they've got a July date. The later we get, the more people that we're going to run into problems with as far as their availability or their flexibility. Although, you know, COVID might keep us sheltering in place much longer than we planned, so we don't really know. But, you know, he's given some dates there. I guess if we can begin to talk maybe about what might be the best date, then we get that established. We've got another board meeting coming up in May. We can come back with more formal plans for that date, but it'll give parents a plan to begin to start letting people know that, you know, this is kind of what's going to happen, and it's going to happen on this date. Chris, what I've been talking about is really establishing a date, and then we can work out the specific details a little bit more. But, you know, deciding if we're going to do a virtual senior awards night, we can set that up. It's going to be on this date. If we're going to do a graduation, it's going to be on this date. If we're going to do a prom party, it's going to be on this date. And all of that's dependent, of course, on the illness and what we're able to do. But at least it gives parents a chance to begin to do some planning.
Well,
Because
even
right
if,
now they don't know what's going on.
yeah, and even we could set those dates and plan accordingly, but then we can always, if we need to back out of it and go to a virtual, we can have it prepared so that it can go both ways. So the slides would be the same, all those pieces would be the same, regardless if we were in person at the stadium or we were virtual on a Zoom or something like that, sharing it over YouTube. So we can.
Another option to the graduation also is, as I think Brian mentioned at one time, is if we don't go into the stadium, but people at least, that we do the big tour down Story Street, go through the track like you suggested, and then have, the car stop to pick up the diploma.
Right.
So
that way, so that
I
it's
think
not.
that's a possibility. Another thing we haven't talked about is we create our own virtual graduation ceremony where we have some afternoon. We set the stage up in the high school. The 5 of us are there 6 feet apart each. And each kid comes in, let's say 5 minutes apart or 3 minutes apart, and they get their graduation diploma handed to them. We take a picture of them getting their graduation diploma. They can get one family picture, and then we move on to the next person, and we space it out that way. And then we put those together. Boone TV and Mr. Byam and others splice those together, and we can do something, have like a pomp and circumstance in the background, or maybe the senior song or something in the background as each kid walks across. And we just kind of pseudo do it that way. That would pretty much take care of our social distancing.
Yep.
Yeah,
I've seen that one done too.
Graduation.
I think you've presented us, Chris, with lots of good ideas. I agree with Brad. If we can give parents dates, I think nobody'd be surprised if things got messed up.
Right.
Yeah.
We're all learning how to be real flexible, but you've given good options, and coupling some of those with dates, I think, is very important.
And we have another board meeting on May 11th. And so that gives us another 2 weeks to pull these plans together and give a little more detail at that time, if we can get some dates established.
And we'll know more in 2 weeks' time, because if it's 2 weeks' time, we should be past the peak by that time. Actually, it's be 3 weeks' time, to be honest with you guys, I think. Because this is the 20th. So our next board meeting will be in 3 weeks' time on the 11th. By that time, we'll be past the peak, and I'll have a much better idea as far as what the downslide's going to be and the opening up, how fast things are going to be going at that time. I would hope, like I said, I'm a little nervous, iffy about that May 1st thing, but I would hope that starting on May 15th, we do some of this, the Grand March, like you said, Chris, if you can get something where we got 30 or 40 teachers supervising to keep the kids socially distancing for that time, I think that's doable. My only concern would be that now all the kids are together, they're going to congregate someplace afterwards, and 40 or 50, 60 of them are going to get together. And if one of those happens to be a carrier, then all of a sudden we've blown things up again. So I know I don't like being the naysayer in all this, but with everything I've been reading lately, I guess I'm having to be concerned somewhat about this, because I don't want to have us going back upward on our coronavirus curve. That's the last thing I want to see.
Right.
We've been very lucky in Boone County. We've had 6 cases in the county so far. That's great.
So
I want to see it that way. Stay. Yeah, Joey.
What exactly, if anything, do we need to vote on tonight?
I think it was just a discussion.
Okay. So
I think if we can narrow in on a date, if it's not going to be the regular weekend, Chris had offered the 14th of June, which might be a little better with Dr. Millhouse's timeline. that is, I believe, Father's Day weekend.
So we would move it to a Saturday.
So we could do it on Saturday. Yeah, that would work. And do it that weekend. That would at least give people some time to plan and put us in a little better light as far as the timeline of opening things up a little more.
Yeah, I think I truly understand Dr. Milhouse's concerns. And the concerns of what if we do graduation and they congregate afterwards. Honestly, we can't worry about that. Like, because I was just down in the ledges 2 days ago and I saw hundreds of people congregating. So all that we can control, and for liability standpoint, is we are doing this and we make sure that they're 6 feet apart. We're following all the policies need be. If they congregate afterwards, that's not on us. And then just moving forward. And yeah, exactly what Brad just said. And Chris is saying too, like, our families need dates.
Mhm.
They're looking for summer and they're hoping for the best. And I know, Brian, I know that you are thinking conservative from the medical aspect, but our families, and especially our senior families, are hoping for the best. So if we can give them some dates and just say, this is our type A, this is our type B, this is our type C. Like, I think that would be so helpful for them, and say, you know, this is what we're hoping for. Best case scenario, we're going to do this. And if it doesn't work, we're going to do this. And
We literally push everything
we're
back
gonna do
2
this.
weeks. I think we're going to be in good shape. I mean, even if we did the June 14th,
Joe, if you can get that clear down, it's really blaring.
Pam, mute yourself.
Oh, I'm sorry. The sun is blinding me. I thought I was mute. Sorry.
Well, if we can set a date, then between now and May 11th, we can set up, if this happens, this will be what it looks like. If this happens, this is what it'll look like. And we'll be good to go. And we'll have a month for families to prepare and know what's going to happen.
Right. I think that's a good idea. Chris, I will tell you that there is an emergency management critical crisis team on this. And two of the guys you mentioned earlier are two of the members of that group. So they and I, the three of us, get together via a Zoom meeting every week to discuss this. And I think the big concern we have is things going upward. Because I would remind you folks that our concern from a public health standpoint is if people start doing what we call, quote, stupid things and breaking the social distancing, then the problem is not only those people get sick, but then all of our healthcare workers and EMS personnel have to risk their lives taking care of those people who did not make the proper decision in the first place. So even though you say, okay, I don't care, it's not going to affect anyone but me. Well, guess what? If you get sick and all of a sudden you call the ambulance because you're so short of breath, you need oxygen, there you just put the fire department and the EMS paramedics at risk for getting it and putting their health at risk. Then when they get to the hospital, you throw all the rest of the hospital personnel involved. So what people do individually does matter in the big picture.
yeah. Okay. Well, I think I can work on the timelines. I think I can push everything back 2 weeks anyway, and I think we can align it that way. We can always do the week of graduation. We could still even do the awards assembly because it's going to be virtually anyway. And then maybe we can, I know Brett's been out lighting the fields and things like that. Maybe we can do something on the day of to celebrate it, just as a token type thing.
Yeah.
So.
I think you got a lot of great ideas. I think we just need to adjust the timing a little bit. And
sure.
I think there's some good ways to honor our senior class.
Okay.
I'm very happy with that. Any other comments, questions?
Is it possible to have a motion to hold graduation on Saturday, June 13th?
Yes. Before we get to that, one more thing I've been trying to say, and I keep forgetting. I was reached out to by one of the councilmen, and they want to make this important as well. So it's potentially not just on us. We have city councilmen that are,
Yep.
they see the importance of graduation, and
They're
so
on my email too.
standards and all of that. So we've this may not just be all on us, but yes, motion.
Okay, so it's a motion to move graduation to Saturday, June 13th by Mr. Weber. Is there a second?
Second.
Pam seconds.
Trying to let somebody else second for a change.
I was still on mute, sorry.
Okay, and so, is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, say nay. Okay. The motion passes. Again, I'd like to thank Mr. Byan for all of his hard work. I think we're going to come up with some great ways to honor our seniors and keep everyone safe. Now we'll go on to the next thing. Dr. Menard, policy suspension. Comments? Can you explain? You're muted, Dr. Menard.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
ISB had this in, they had a variety of resolutions, and this was one of them. And it comes up, if we have to do something differently than our policies allow in the interim between now and the end of well, what I've said is the fiscal year. For instance, one example that we used is we've got some seniors that had to take PE fourth quarter. What if if we get to the 10th of May and we find out that our seniors can't complete their PE for fourth quarter? Are we going to have that keep them from graduating, or do we want to waive the PE graduation requirement? So it allows us the flexibility to do that by Brian, Pat, and I mutually agreeing to suspend the policy and then notifying the rest of the board. And that suspension would be temporary through June 30th. And there are other policies out there about attendance and things like that that may come up. I don't know of a lot right now that may come up, but this just gives us the flexibility in this crazy time. If something happens when we go, oh, that doesn't align with policy, and we know it needs to be done, we can make that adjustment temporarily.
Okay. Any questions about that?
No, these expire June 30th, right, Brad?
Yeah.
Something like that, yeah.
Mhm.
So I would move to, if this needs a vote, I would move to change our policy suspension procedures for the time being.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Ms. Nystrom motion, Mr. Pritchard second. I believe the gist of the motion is to approve the motion that is currently on the agenda here at policy suspension 2.03. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So all those in favor of the motion listed under board action 2.03, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Okay. Okay, now we get to the reason we actually had this meeting tonight. And that is Mitch, you're on.
Yeah, Mitch.
Yep, so we have been refinancing some sales tax bonds for, it seems like a few months or half a year right now. JP Morgan Chase bought the bonds. It's going to save us about $275,000 for doing this. So these resolutions are just to approve their normal procedures when you refinance a bond. The first one is to appoint the paying agent, bond registrar, and transfer agent. We work with UMB Bank, who handles all of our other sales tax bonds. So this is just a normal resolution for that.
Okay, and can't remember if, okay, this is, I'll need a motion and a second to approve this resolution.
This is
Yep, and then
Pat.
roll call.
This is Pat. I resolve to appoint the paying agency, bond registrar, and transfer agent, approving the paying agent, bond registrar, and transfer agent agreement, and authorizing the execution of the same.
Thank you, Mrs. Stevens, for motioning. Is there a second?
Second.
Mrs. Nystrom seconds it. This again has to be a roll call vote. Mr. Lewis.
Weber,
Yes.
Nystrom,
Yes.
Teven,
Yes.
Pritchard,
Yes.
Melhouse.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so that that motion passes. Resolution passes. Next, the approval of the tax exempt certificate to the state.
So the tax exempt certificate is a 19-page document. I didn't get that scanned in.
Oh, thank
But
you.
that is just explaining, how much we're bonding, and we are not going to give it to non-tax exempt entities. It's pretty much holding us to IRS guidelines. So, and this is another normal thing to pass when you refinance bonds or issue bonds.
Oh.
Okay, do I hear a motion to approve the tax exempt certificate?
Move to approve the tax exemption certificate as presented.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, Mr. Pritchard moved and Mrs. Nystrom seconded to approval of the tax exempt certificate on file. I believe this is just a voice vote, is it not, Mitch?
It's roll call again.
Roll call again, okay.
Yep.
Roll call.
Weber,
Yes.
Nystrom,
Yes.
Teven,
Yes.
Pritchard,
Yes.
Melhouse.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, now the resolution authorizing the terms of issuance and providing for securing the payments of school infrastructure.
So this is just one of those other resolutions, in essence, okaying the bond and paying off the old one. So
Okay, is there a motion to approve this?
This is Pat. I move the resolution authorizing the term issuance and providing for and securing the payments of school infrastructure sales services and use tax revenue refunding bonds.
Okay, it's been moved by Mrs. Teeman. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Weber has seconded it. For one last roll call, Mitch.
Weber,
Yes.
Nystrom,
Yes.
Teven,
Yes.
Pritchard,
Yes.
Melhouse.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. That being taken care of, we now, I'll entertain a motion to go into executive session. And we need to have this on public and then we'll
Yeah.
have Bob turn off.
Before you did that, did you guys see the message I posted in the chat? You had 2 comments on the YouTube page.
No, I did not. Can you read those to us? No, I did not.
Eldon Hutchinson says, worst case scenario, 1 year class reunion to replace senior prom. And Laura Lee Baker said, thank you for working hard to honor the seniors, heart emoji. All right,
Okay.
I'm gonna turn off YouTube now.
Okay, okay, well, I'll leave it on for just a minute. We have to motion to go into closed session.
All right.
Okay, can I have a motion to go in closed session?
So moved.
We have to have the formal reading.
I move that we hold a closed session as provided in the section 21.51J of the Open Meetings Law to discuss a purchase or sale of particular real estate where a premature disclosure could be reasonably expected to increase the price the school district would have to pay or lower the price of the board would receive for that property.
Okay, is there a second? Now, Mrs. Nystrom, would you like a second?
I will second. Thank you.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we need a roll call vote to go into executive session.
Weber,
Yes.
Nystrom,
Yes.
Teven,
Yes.
Pritchard,
Yes.
Melhouse.
Yes, okay, now we can go off the YouTube.